I am so excited to share with you today's walk and talk because it's something that I have never heard anybody talk about, and something that I think, even if you're not doing the challenge to create more recurring revenue in your business, this is something that you need to be doing. Because every time I mention it to people, they go, oh my goodness, like, I don't do this. Why does anybody not teach this? And I don't know why people don't teach it, because I'm not a business coach. But I am a lawyer, and I have a legal template shop where I support people to get the legal documents they need simply for their business. And I've been chatting to you for the past 2 videos all about how to create more recurring revenue and how I'm trying to do that in my business. And I'm sort of taking you along on that journey. And I'm doing it in a walk and talk setting where basically I go out for a walk and I chat to you about what I'm doing as we go. But I have a bit of bad news, guys. As many of you know, I do these walk and talks as part of my daily step count, and I broke my streak this week. I'm so gutted. It's actually always a sign of not having a very good work-life balance. That's actually why I do the step streak. 10,000 steps a day, every day. Did it even when I was having the children, and anyway, really gutted to have lost it this past week. So that's, lots to reevaluate about why that happened and how I hadn't managed to prioritise taking the time to actually find time in the day to complete the steps. But that's probably a chat for another day. But if you want to give me any sympathy in the comments, then feel free to do so. Within this session, I'm going to talk to you. It's not a session, it's a chat. Within this chat, I'm going to talk to you all about meaningful KPIs. Now, do not switch off. Do not stop listening. Meaningful KPIs is something that is going to transform the way you do your business, because it's about tracking and getting hold of the most important pieces of data to find out if what you're actually doing is working. So if you're running your business and you feel a bit stuck and you're like, nothing I'm doing is working, I would love you to try this out, because I think it will change everything for you. So if, just as a quick rewind, that in the last 2 videos, I chatted to you first about the importance and the freedom that having recurring revenue will create. Just at this point in the walk, the views are just so incredible. Talked about the freedom and how it allows you to have more time in your business, more time in your life. If you've got recurring revenue coming in all the time, it allows for predictability. It gives you much more stability, especially if you're working for yourself. In video 2, I talked about how to select a recurring revenue product from your offer suite, like what you offer, and how you could maybe look at using payment plans to be a form of recurring revenue. And as I mentioned a moment ago, in this video, I want to chat to you about meaningful KPIs. Now, a KPI probably sounds really boring, really corporate. It isn't. It's called a key performance indicator, and all that really means is a stat, a measure, a piece of data. So a KPI might be revenue that had been generated, or it might be the number of email subscribers. That kind of revenue, that kind of information is helpful to capture, but it's not meaningful. It doesn't really tell you a lot. It's just really a very, uninformative snapshot. It doesn't tell you what you need to know. Instead, what I suggest you do is track meaningful KPIs. But before I go into that, let me explain about why this is important. So really early on in this this process of trying to rebuild my recurring revenue, I actually started it a few months ago, and some of you may have been following along then, you may not have done, but the video's there, and I started and I failed. And part of the reason I failed was because I didn't implement this process of having these meaningful KPIs. And what I did was what most people do, which is go into this really excited, going, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to do recurring revenue, I'm going to generate it in my business. And I kind of started doing the process, but I didn't properly measure it. I just was like, oh, well, I really want the membership to grow and develop, because that will create more recurring revenue and it will help me really support people properly in their businesses. It'll help me to have those touch points where I can continue to keep speaking to them. And it doesn't necessarily work by you just going, okay, how many memberships did I sell? How many of the thing did I sell this month? Have those pieces of it, have those numbers increase. So it might be that you're like, oh, how many new one-to-one clients have I got? And that's the number you're tracking. So if you're tracking one-to-one clients, that's just one stat, and you can be like, right, yeah, okay, I've got 2 this month, or I've got 3 this month, but that's not meaningful in any way. Instead, what you need to be doing is taking a step back and saying, okay, if the thing I'm trying to track is new members into my membership, I need to keep that as a statistic that's relevant, but I also need to work out what the steps are that lead to that thing happening. So, for example, it may be that if you email about your thing, your membership, you email about your product, your offer, people buy. So that's something that you need to be tracking. It may be that if you post on social media, people then buy. There may be a step in between that you post on social media, they download your opt-in, they come through a funnel, and there's a few different steps there. And you need to be tracking some, if not all, of those steps. And the reason that this is important is because if you get to the end of a month and you say, oh, I only got 2 more people in my membership, but I wanted to get 5, you don't know what's worked, in the sense that you can't look back and say, right, well, how many emails did I send? You haven't tracked them. How many times did you post on social media? You didn't track that either. Okay, so meaningful KPIs mean that you collect the data as you go along and you can make the process more meaningful. So say, again, for example, I want to book out my signature program, okay? I will work out what I need to do about that. Maybe I need to talk about it on social media. So I'm going to track how many times I actually post about it on social media. And I don't mean just to say, oh, I do have one-to-one, but how am I posting about it? Am I mentioning that I've got it? Am I inviting people to a sales call? So it'd be things like, invited to a sales call. How are you doing that? In an email, don't just mention passively, oh, and this is what I do with people in my one-to-ones. That's not selling. That's not inviting people to book a call. That's potentially, you could track that as, yeah, I mentioned it, but it's not actually inviting people into the sale or saying book a call, or being clear as to say, like, come and buy this thing now, come and do this thing with me. So if we were tracking how many people had booked into your one-to-one, we would be looking and saying, right, how many times have you actually mentioned it? And we could look and say, oh, okay, hold on, this week we haven't sent any emails and we haven't made any sales, okay? But the week before that, we made 1 sale and we talked about it twice on email and twice on social media. And we can start to look for the patterns that maybe you'll mention it on social media and nothing is happening. And we can be really specific as well and say, okay, I mentioned it once on LinkedIn and I got an inquiry, or I mentioned it 5 times on Instagram stories across the week or the month and I got 5 inquiries, or I got no inquiries. And we can begin to see there and build out the pattern as to what works and what doesn't. So meaningful KPIs actually start to paint this picture of where the leads are coming from. It's essentially tracking and tracing where the people are coming from. And obviously at the start, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know where the leads are going to come from. You don't know what is converting. And you have to do all of the things. So you have to post on LinkedIn. You have to post on TikTok or Instagram or wherever it is. You have to keep sending the emails so that it actually, so that you actually have the data so that you can trace it, because otherwise you can't see what's working and it's not meaningful. Bonus reason that this works so well is that it actually makes you take action. So if we take a really simplistic view and we just say, right, I'm going to track how many new members I get each month, and every week I'm going to track the number of members I get, the number of times I speak about it on social media, choose one of the platforms, Instagram let's say, and the number of times on email. When you look at those stats, if you literally look at it the next week and you're like, oh, the numbers are 0, the number is all 0, it's quite telling why it's all 0, because you haven't spoken about social media, you haven't spoken it on your email, you haven't told anyone about it, so how are they going to buy? And I think sometimes we think we're promoting it, we think, oh, I've got my sales page there, but how many hits are you getting? That's another thing you could track on your website. How many hits are you getting? How many times are you sending people to that? And without having these meaningful KPIs, not just saying how much revenue do you get from your membership and how many members have you got, without the meaningful part, you're not actually moving forward or creating progress. And this really can change everything. As I said, it doesn't even have to be something that you're doing as part of a monthly recurring revenue campaign. It can be something that you're doing already. I would really, really be interested to see whether you already do this. So is this something that you track KPIs? Do you track them in a meaningful way within your business, in a way that allows you to actually see what is working and what isn't working? Because the great thing about it is that you will be able to decide where to spend your time. So as I just said a moment ago, imagine if it came back that all of your leads and everything you were doing was coming from your email list. It may be that you're like, oh, I don't need to show up on social media, or I don't need to sell on social media, which often doesn't feel nice for you, maybe. You might be like, oh, I don't need to sell on social media. I'm just going to tell people exciting anecdotes. I'm going to tell people about my business. I'm going to get them onto my mailing list because it's from there that I can sell. Or people never purchase from the email that I send where I really sell. They only purchase, or they only book a call from me on these types of emails where I tell the success stories of my clients. And when you start to create meaningful, trackable KPIs like this, it makes such a difference. And I know, because people say to me all the time, I really don't like the data. I don't like doing the data stuff. You don't have to make it complicated. You don't have to track everything. Just track what you're doing. And I think that's the big thing, and that was the big changer for me, and that's what made the difference from before, because I wasn't meaningfully tracking anything, but I wasn't actually doing it. I set this challenge and was like, I'd love to have more people in my membership. I really want to support people in this way, but I wasn't telling people about it, wasn't talking about it, I wasn't actually promoting it and saying these are the benefits of being in the membership. And I really hope that you can see the difference between that and what that looks like in terms of tracking something and actually selling, and not just sort of passively mentioning something. I really hope this has been helpful, and let me know in the comments if you've already been tracking this kind of data in a measurable way, or if this is something that you're going to start doing.